institution where you find that they look like the same.
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
All right, welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. It's still Daybreak on Trust TV, and we're still reeling out the headlines of the national dailies. We'll take the Punch newspaper. The lead story here says hoodlums attack. Federal government deploys soldiers, DSS in INEC offices nationwide. And we have riders that say security team to be drawn from Army, Police, DSS, NSCDC, Fire Service. Governors using thugs, state security outfits to cause violence. IG cries out. U.S. threatens to sanction candidates, politicians sponsoring violent campaigns. And we have Nigeria's poverty exceeds World Bank projection. 5 states lead. We also have more stories on business. Naira depreciation, inflation erode workers 25 trillion naira salaries. Now, there's a lead story, there's a pictorial there of obese supporters protesting an alleged underage registration and vote buying plot. We also have 11 billion naira addition to defense budget uncovered. Minister queried. Ataga says I was forced to sign prepared police statement, says Chidinma. And we also have looted funds. EFCC puts more governors under watch. And these are some of the stories on the Punch newspaper. And we have our guest analyst in the studio with us already. He's Nuruddin Abdullah, editor 21st Century Chronicles, joining us for the newspaper review. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, thank you.
Thank you for
coming
on the program. All right, so the lead story on Daily Trust talks about the NBS reports that says 133 million Nigerians, are, poor, extremely poor right now, and they attributed it to insecurity and also the energy crisis as well. Let's have your thoughts on this.
So I think that is the obvious. More importantly, the research was conducted, rather, by a government agency, Bureau for Statistics. So, in those days when these figures were released, people keep wondering. They look at it as just mere English. These people with their data. But now it's a reality. You don't need to be an economist, you understand, to understand that there is inflation. Looking at the level of insecurity, there are certain things that we took for granted then, but now they're beyond our reach. In those days, when you talk about the economy, say inflation. So what is inflation? But now, just how much is the measure of Gari? You understand? So all these things have just so. There is nothing surprising. There is mass displacement as a result of not only the insurgency, but the banditry which is happening in the hinterlands. Talking about the state of the Northwest and part of the North Central. People cannot go to farms. And this is going for almost 2-3 years. You understand? You go to farm, you farm, but you cannot even harvest. So, all this add up. The smaller economies that people rely on, because majority of Nigerians don't rely on government. How many percent of Nigerians are working in the, let's say, formal sector? They rely on agriculture and other smaller businesses, but the environment is becoming more toxic by the day because of this insecurity, as well as the energy crisis. Look at the beginning of the liter of diesel, how much was it? Less than 300 naira. But now, it's almost 800 plus. So how do you cope with the inflation, insecurity, and the cost of energy? At the time, some banks have to even slash their working hours. Offices where air conditioners are being used now, they have deployed fans. All to cost and unfortunately, we thought that particularly when the the diesel prices went up. We thought that maybe it is a temporary thing, but apparently it is not. Look at even the PMS angle. Then, above all, electricity. It is not improving. We celebrated when it did at the peak of the rainy season. But it seems that now we are going back to the status quo. So these are we recorded how many collapses this year alone. And nobody is saying anything. The explanation we get from the authorities is that there are maintenance. In those days, the collapse happened, maybe from the hydro, whatever. But now, almost zero grid. And they will say maintenance. How can you have more than 15 or 20 gas stations that's power in the country? How can they go on maintenance at the same time? So more people are incurring losses, more people are getting out of business, more people are becoming poor. It's a multi-dimensional poor. They cannot afford housing. Those that send their children to private schools so that they get a semblance of better education are now taking them back to public schools, where almost nothing is going on. Those who afford to send their children to maybe private universities because of the ASU strike now cannot pay the exorbitant fee. They have to bring them back to public schools. And ASU and federal government are not yet tired with the pro rata payment. Nobody knows what happens tomorrow. You understand. So, all these issues, if you look at it.
According to that report, one other disturbing factor that I got noticed about is that children are worst hit. Isn't that a disaster for the country?
Yes. Look at the parents. It's a simple thing, particularly, and if you look at it, it's urban slums, poverty, you understand? In those days, at the villages, you can farm. The president said that people should go to farm. Where? You understand? The children are worst hit because their parents are out of work, out of smaller businesses. She's frying akara in one end, but bandits are now in control. She has to move. Her husband may be a pensioner who has spent more than 12 months without getting a penny. Or he works in one private firm he has been rusticated. So what happens? The burden lies on the woman. And the security situation cannot warrant her earning that livelihood that she feeds her family with. So all this out of what happens to the children? Out of school. Most of our health expenses are out of pocket because there is no national insurance coverage. So, all these things add up. And they are the worst hit. Most of them are, just look at it. The minister said it not long ago. The number of out of school children from 2015 to date has moved from about 7 million to over 10 million.
It actually further says that the highest state with multidimensional poverty is Sokoto, and the lowest is Ondo State.
Yeah. And the trend hasn't changed much. We used to have Sokoto.
91%.
Yeah, Sokoto. So it means that Sokoto is still worse than even the Boko Haram ravaged state of Yobe in particular. Because it used to be that axis. Long ago, it used to be Jigawa, Sokoto, Yobe. So what does it mean? We don't care about this. Nobody cares.
Okay, let's move on to more stories now. What's your thoughts on the Senate committee uncovering 10.8 billion naira insertion in Defense Ministry's budget?
I have a problem with insertion. The Senate, okay, the minister couldn't explain it, right? Maybe that's what they call insertion.
Where did it come from?
Between the Ministry of Finance, Budget Office, this is usual among the MDS. I remember one incident. It's a MDA in the health sector So when the budget was passed, he realized that about 20, how much? About 2 billion, because it was started. So he called his GM, finance. He said, what happened? Is this the budget? He said, Oga, don't bother. The owners of the money will come for it. And that's what happened. So it happens. You do your own, you send it to the budget office. They do the budget, the minuses and whatever, and they take care of the stakeholders' interest, people in the Villa, National Assembly, and what is it?
Okay, let's take a look at city and crime before we move on to more stories. That's page 20 and 21 of Daily Trust newspaper. We have a story of, Umita, the lady that was killed by her Chinese boyfriend in Kano, saying, I saw Chinese with blood-stained knife, neighbor tells court. And, okay, you want to share your thoughts on that first?
Yeah, that was very tragic, but like I say, when the incident happened, we have to review our, we have to look into our moral fabrics, you understand? Because this thing happened in the north, in Kano. So there are, the relationship between the slain lady and that expert, right, calls to question so many things. It questions our values. There is no any law say that she's not a Chinese, should not marry a Nigerian, a Hausa, a Yoruba, whatever. But there are certain things that parents in particular must guard against. You understand? So many things happened that culminated into the murder of that by the Chinese. The unfettered access the man has into the family, These people are Hausa people, for heaven's sake, from Sokoto. You understand? So many things happen. Whatever the family did to him, it doesn't justify the mother. But in Hausa, there's what we call, I've even forgotten that. So many things build up. So that they collect his money, that she won't marry him. He bought this for her. Because the audacity he had in executing his crime, he knew her room inside the house. In a typical house setting. Not being a husband doesn't just barge into his in-laws. We have some cultural, social values to, but not to talk of, not to be a fiancé, a boyfriend. So, all these things, we have to actually look inward and correct certain things, If not, these things will keep on happening. And again, you can do that maybe to a typical Nigerian. Allah is a robot eater. In Hausa, forget about her. But he's a Chinese man. He looks at it as an investment.
Interesting. But at the end of the day, it is required that she gets justice. Where do you see this case heading then?
All boils down to the quality of prosecution. Quality of prosecution. He's rich. That's the only link between him and that lady, because he's of his money. I'm sorry to say it, you understand? Therefore, I know he will have access to competent lawyers. So the state, which is Kano, has to have a very strong prosecution team to ensure that justice is served in this case. But when you bring a low-level prosecutors and whatever, they will use technicality to knock the thing, because he's studying. It's a murder case. You understand? It's capital punishment. So he will utilize his government, his people, directly or indirectly. Will utilize all their available means to give him strong representation. So the state government need to up their ante and ensure that the lady gets justice, while other Nigerians, particularly in that part of the country, we should learn from this tragic incident.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Can you share your thoughts on the Inspector General of Police crying out that governors are using thugs and state security outfits to cause violence?
That's the obvious.
Politics.
Even though they will deny it, maybe there will be a strong rebuke from maybe the governors. That's the obvious. They are using thugs, they are using security personnel to do that. We saw what happened in Kaduna when I think a PDP held its rally at the Ranch B Stadium. We saw what happened in Borno when the PDP candidate motorcade was pelted and some people injured. And we saw what happened in Jos. The vicinity, even where the president was there. So, excuse me, and not only that, the NSA last week was saying that in the last 10 months, the security agencies recorded almost 52 politically inclined violence. Only the police, only the governors can do it because they have the money, they are in charge, they control the security apparatus in their state because of their power and their money, and what if it. That's cause if they have state police. They are using thugs, they are using vigilante, they are using all manner, they are even controlling the federal security agencies in their states. So, and I like the boldness of the IG in calling them out. Yeah, telling them, yeah, you are responsible for this, and you can't be in power forever. That's what they forget. You can inflict all manner of injury, hardship on your opponent today. Like El-Rufai was trying to tell Obi, the Labour Party was in Kaduna. El-Rufai reminded him that he was in Anambra some years back while Obi was governor, and he accused the Labour candidate of orchestrating his arrest and detention by the security service. But Obi now is out of power. He's a presidential candidate. Even El-Rufai in the next couple of months, he'll be out of power. I remember he was once arrested here. He returned from the UK or Dubai. Then he was picked by the DSS during a protest around Usitu or thereabout. They should know that power is transient. You can't be a governor forever. Maximum 8 years. So think of life outside power. So these are some of those things. I like what the IG, they need to be told. Even though I know they have immunity, they have money, they can rush to the villa, intimidate the president, and nothing can, that's the end of it. But nobody knows who will be a victim. It happened in Kaduna, we did like this. It is PDP, it is Atiku. It happened in Maiduguri, the police in Maiduguri even deny it. Then suddenly it happened in Jos with the president in situ. That's security breach. Nobody knows where it will happen next. Maybe with no connection to that violence in Jos. Elomeka, slumped. People with BP or what have you, There are some of these things that. So I think maybe the stakeholders, like the Abdesalami Committee, they have warned some of them, the governors, that, they should actually rein their talks from unleashing mayhem 100 days to the election.
All right, well, the lead story on this day newspaper talks about the Naira redesign, and Bawa saying, that's EFCC saying that they've gotten significant step to economic recovery, and then the ICPC saying that they've recovered 117 billion Naira in 8 months, due to the whole talk about the redesign. and saying that they're monitoring more governors for stashed cash.
I don't know. I don't like the way the EFCC chairman is doing. He should act more than talk. Security agencies don't talk. But talk. And all his predecessors had that issue. Most recent one, Magu. The pioneer one, I know about it. He went to the National Parliament saying that they have an advisory on 30 governors. He was mentioning them one after the other. Some is saying that it's direct stealing. That's uncalled for. Do your work. You can arrest a governor, but you can get the money. And most of these monies, I don't think they are kept in the government houses. No, they are in private properties. Get your search warrant and storm the place and get the money. Let it be evidence-based. I don't want this talk. The other time you say 4 governors, 3 governors. One of the governors, I remember, is it the governor of Zamfara? He even dared the EFCC chief. He should go to the property and get the money. Stop the talk. So you understand, it should be evidence-based. When you storm a house in Abuja, you uncover this cash, then yeah. With the Abuja municipality authorities, you know who are the owners of the property. Is it a state government property? Is it a federal property? Or is it a personal property? When you arrest an individual, but I hope that maybe they won't do much cover-up. The EFCC, the ICPC recovered some funds not long ago. You remember? The Baru, the thing. And what if they say it belongs to a former army chief. Then the former army chief has been threatening to sue the online newspaper that did the story. So, all this. Let's talk, Master Bawa. More action. Storm your house. Let's see you with all this cash. They will celebrate you. But saying this, he has become a canary, talking. That is the undoing of his predecessors. He should know. Everybody spoke too much. The people he accused at that time now, the people he is following now. Farida Waziri, same thing. Lamurde, same thing. Most recently, Magu. The hunter became the hunted. So let's talk. More action. Storm house. Bring all the guys. They will know you're talking. But this talk.
Well, talking about talking, I'm going to be having a lot of talking a bit later. Mr. Nuruddin Abdullah will still be with us for the discussion at the top of the hour. Stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that they must look like the same,
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
because I have said that